one or two symbols that will tell us that there's something stirring. The Bible says the Spirit of God hovered over the waters. There's a stirring, there's a sense that there's a difference. Because, you know, we're at halftime, as somebody said. How do we create passion and interest and enthusiasm as we come out of a recession? Because as somebody else said, people became quite depressed, and it created behaviors that actually fed into, as you said, a vicious cycle of disinvestment, people taking money out, people not trusting, 13 exchange rates, and so on. And I want to use two examples that have, this is live, this in terms of what really has struck me. You said creating an enabling environment. Honestly, if you Nigerians don't want much. If you create, just put into place just a few of the things you outlined, Nigerians will take it and they'll run with it. I've seen Nigerians in Gabon, where every 3 years the Gabonese would wake up and say, we're tired of Nigerians, everybody out. And they would throw the traders, the market people, you know, out. After some time, you know, they will come back again. And you'll see, they will say, okay, you can only use night markets, the traders, because all the markets at one stage in Gabon were run by Nigerians, particularly my Igbo brothers. You know, and after some time, Bongo, everybody come and say, Nigerians are taking all our jobs. They'll throw them out. Then after all, the people themselves will go and beg them that, okay, let them come for night market. And then at that time, you see every night, Gabonese going to go to the markets because that is where they can get the best things and so on. You go to Kenya, you'll find that, you know, Kenya Airways, Gabon Airways, the Airways, you find Nigerians all over the continent. Whenever I would travel back home from Gabon, the only thing they would ask me to bring back were Nollywood movies. Bobola, you said that you didn't watch them. We watched them, you know, because when those of you who are out, you know, in Uganda, in East Africa, they love the music and the films. And I mean, it's an informal economy because we don't know how they're coming. If it could be measured, it'd be much more than what we think Nollywood is today. Investors are transfixed for our potential. At the end of the day, when we launched the book, we were looking for $1 billion. The book ended at 7.9 billion. We gave them initial price quotes called IPTs, or at the beginning in London, we said you'll probably raise, if you want 15 years, no sub-Saharan African country has ever gone for 15 years. So that's tough. But because, you know, let's say 8.5, if we get 8.5 would be great for 15 years. We did it at 7.875. There's something about Nigeria.
Oh, wow. Because this testimony is exactly what Apostles in the Marketplace is about. People paying the price behind the scenes for the progress of Nigeria. So thank you, and thank you to all those who were behind and in front for our country. We are transfixed on Nigeria. Now we're going to round up this panel. Unfortunately, we have exceeded our time, but there's going to be time for Q&A. But Ayo Toriba wants the last word. Don't take us from this high down.
The point I wanted to clarify, I think for me, nailed it. Nigeria tried to issue $1 billion Eurobond. Investors oversubscribed eightfold. They offered 7.9 billion. Exchange rate or no exchange rate, recession or no recession. Investors don't have to be mad to invest in Nigeria. Investors only have to perceive Nigeria's potential. Exchange rate, and I want to say this very, very firmly and clearly. We need to, distinguish between the different types of investors. There are financial investors who are going to bring their money here, are not going to commit it. They would either put it in government bonds or put it in stock market or put it in the bank as deposit. They're not going to do any real investment. And they are the type that ask you 500 questions before they bring the money, and they will be the first to leave at any sign of problem. That's not the type of investor we are looking for. We can safely ignore them at the moment. We don't need them. We have problems. The type of investors that we come and make real sector investment here don't care about exchange rate. When the final investment decision of the LNG project was taken, that 3 foreign investors agreed to put $2 billion and the government would put $2 billion, it was $4 billion. In 1994, the exchange rate situation was worse than what we had in 2016. The official rate was 22 and the market rate was 80. That was when they took the decision. Their decision is a 27-year investment project, 5 years construction. They don't care about exchange rate, they care about profit opportunities. And they are the type that bring large enough investment that could solve our foreign exchange shortage. They are game changers. So that's the kind that we pitch to. So last year, in the face of all the crisis, if government wanted to boost investment, if we didn't want to wait for a price to increase to raise reserve, we wanted $10 billion, we could sell our holding in LNG, just for an example, and investment will come.
Is the CEO of an organization focused on creating opportunities for investors while building sustainable growth and capacity in emerging markets. Trained in financial services with NYLIC University, one of Wall Street's best financial services training organizations, he worked briefly at New York Life Securities before joining World Marketing Alliance in 1998, where he has helped build a team of financial service professionals. Emeka Okoye also serves as chairman of HC Yafeng West Africa Limited, an American-Chinese JV construction and infrastructure development company with operations in Nigeria and other African countries. The latest project in Nigeria was the conversion of the former Joyaba Hotel complex into a 200 apartments complex with UAC Property Development Company. He holds a master's degree in architecture, and one-on-one I can tell you, he absolutely loves youthpreneurship.
Thank you so much. We're going to invite Dayo back when it's time for Q&A, but for now, we're going to go right to the panel. So Shani, you have a very easy job because someone went ahead of you and sold Andela. In fact, she told us about your office opening that we were not invited to. But I want you to just speak briefly about the opportunities in the ICT sector, especially in this enabled environment that we know God has already answered. And what opportunities exist in that sector, the growth that we can see, and what is required to take us forward. When you have literally 3 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here among very great people. I think to get into your question very specifically, the opportunity within the ICT sector, I think to start with, I think research globally shows that the ICT sector is one of the fastest growing in the world. And when many people think of ICT, we think of these small Silicon Valley startups that eventually maybe become big companies. But we don't really think of what they do. And I think some of the most successful companies are actually companies that help to allow the real world to happen.
In the construction industry. Can you speak to that as we think about the path to economic sustainability?
Thank you very much. I appreciate the Honorable Minister for his simplicity and commitment to the economy. I think that the presentation he did was actually a tail-on to the Vice President's meeting at the Senior Adeferations Church in Ikoyi. I was there. And I asked him a question. We are all struggling to change and kickstart the economy. But it's been proven that real estate and construction has 24 times multiplier effect on the money you invest. Why are we not playing in that sector? And he gave a very interesting answer. He said, we actually believe what you just said, and we have earmarked about 1 trillion towards real estate. Now, the issue is not earmarking that money. The issue is not identifying the problem. As he said, and many of us have said, is the issue of implementation. Now, most of the people, Redan, all sorts of Quran, and all the organizations have always had meetings upon meetings with all the ministers of works. And the challenge of impacting to the grassroots is always mass housing. So everybody talk about mass housing. But the issue is not only mass housing. Do we really have the skills to deliver those programs? Do we have the structure to put in place? And what I want to postulate in the little time I'm given, because there's quite a lot of intellect in the panel, is that we have now identified the problem and we have identified a partial solution. The question is, how does the government get the buy-in of those people who would help to implement? We had a strategy we proposed to the federal ministry when they kited, that we wanted to do 20,000 houses, and she was, how? And we say, if you sign the agreement, the Chinese government is willing to invest as much as possible into housing, because everybody understands that Nigeria has 17 million shortage in housing. And I did the math at $50 per square meter, and it was close to 80 trillion naira. That's a big space to play in. That's why if you close your eyes and get into real estate at the mass housing level, you will succeed. And that created the shabby ways of building houses like we have collapsed. So what is needed now is the engagement of the government to the industry professionals to give them that funding, that enabling environment, the mortgage system, which we are talking about, the mortgage refinance, mortgage-backed securities. These things are the things that will help real players when they come into the industry. They can carry along the small contractors. And when the contractor is doing a job, you have the plumber, you have an electrician, you have an architect, a project manager. 24 industries will be fueled with money. So my postulation is that we create a platform where the private sector and the government are able to bench on what has already been achieved, and also communicate these abilities and what government already have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we believe that there are opportunities in the construction space. You have proved it. We also understand the magnitude of the opportunities in the ICT space and that we don't have any funding challenges. Now we're coming to the creative sector that has developed in spite of and in an untidy manner. And it's ad hoc, okay. Ad hoc. Don't quote me, quote one of our previous panelists. Looking forward, what can...
I remember last year when Mark Zuckerberg indicated he wanted to visit Africa. We were surprised, because the question is, who's really looking? Because it looks at those in Nigeria don't even know that we are existing. You understand? But here is somebody from the outside looking at us and saying, we want you to come. So, okay, you want us to attend the meeting? Say, no, we are visiting you especially, but keep your mouth shut. That day was a turnaround in our whole idea of thinking. And two things happened in that visit that I will never forget. The first question he asked me on close range was, why are Nigerians creating more content on Instagram, yet there are more Nigerians on Facebook? I gave him the reasons why that's so. Then he asked me the second question, saying, look, why will you need to pay attention to this industry? He's been asking that question and he's looking for an answer. And I told him, everything you know up to date about Nollywood is English content. We haven't even reached where India is, where Tahil and Hindu, where the regional contents are more powerful than English content. So that's actually about 5-10 years from where we are. He said, now he understands. The truth is that 2 days ago or thereabouts, in India,
there's a company in Nugu, Finomar, founded in the mid-60s, so which means they went through civil war. They're still standing, second generation run, about 400,000 birds, have gone through different challenges, but are still there, thriving. Wilson Juice, interesting story. 2 young Nigerians in their early 30s who did not grow up in Nigeria, grew up in the US, moved back, went to Otta, decided to start a company, went through different iterations before they now have product on the shelves, growing very, very rapidly. Former bankers in Food Pro in Kwara, used to be at Stanbic RMB, and now doing this initiative. So many stories of people doing exciting things. But at the same time, it's important to separate the excitement and the hype from the fundamentals, because it is a tough sector, and you really need to understand those fundamentals if you're going to do well. And what does that mean? It means, especially for those considering agriculture in the audience, is depending on what sector you're going into, spend time understanding what the critical success factors are. So, for example, we invested in cassava, a large-scale integrated cassava starch operation in Kogi State. 13,000 hectares of land, 1,000 cultivated, starch plant coming online. But to do cassava and starch well, your plant has to be on farm. You cannot set up a plant like Ekagro did in Lagos Ibadan Expressway with no source of supply. You need to, and where do you grow cassava? It's the Middle Belt area. It's Kogi, Benue, a range of other states. So it's critical. If you're looking at rice, you need 2 cycles, you need irrigation, you need to come through the system. So whatever you're looking to do, you need to focus on critical success factors, what are the fundamentals to make sure you can overcome those challenges.
Thank you very much. So definitely agriculture has tremendous opportunities, and agriculture is not just farming. It's processing, it's logistics, it's financial services, it's movie making and production. So last but not the least, Mama, who wears so many hats, I think you can round it all up, because you see from the First Bank window, but from your own experience as an entrepreneur, what it takes to drive economic growth and transformation. Now, what would you say are the key critical success factors that people in the audience need to take forward to ensure that we achieve the enabled environment and grow our economy?
Thank you very much. I mean, it's fascinating listening to all the speakers and painfully seeing all the areas of our opportunities that are not fully maximized, though we have the potential to do it. The word I hate the most right now is potential, but I'm trying to live with it the best I can. The honest truth is, everything we've identified that we've spoken about, if I take construction, even if the policy and investments go into that sector right now, our biggest challenge would be having the right manpower that is ours to drive it. So what we will do, like in every other sector, is we will create the opportunities, but the West African region and the rest of the world would provide the manpower. And therefore, the jobs that we will create will not be ours because we haven't prepared our people to do it. So for me, one critical component, and I say this with all due respect, but knowing very well that the Honorable Minister is a very committed, right-thinking Nigerian whose heart is in the right place. And I believe that if there's a government that has certain components within it that can make it move us forward right now, this government has certain elements that give you hope that that can be done. But we have to decisively have a 360-degree plan that drives us towards what we seek to achieve. Our education system is critical. Going back to the drawing table, to restructure how we produce people through our schools in a way that we can retrain for all the different areas where we need to feed people to for the kind of development that we want to be critical. And even as we have a lot of people already out of school with the wrong kind of, with degrees that are not necessarily required or in high demand, we can still move forward. It'd be great to identify degrees that are generic enough to be effectively used in certain sectors where we want to develop, and have some short-term training programs to retrain and deploy those people in those areas, so that we don't, like someone explained to me once, we have massive shortage of nurses, but we don't need to take people to 4 years nursing programs right now. Why? We have a lot of graduates of biological sciences who have no jobs because we've produced excess numbers. And we have programs that we can run for like 12 months that makes them better nurses than the graduates of nursing from nursing schools. And we will deploy them in these programs. Because a lot of the skills are scattered in small bits. They don't have the capital or the infrastructure, but you can create common hubs or clusters where everybody is gathered together and all the infrastructure is shared, all the resources, everything that is difficult. It would still be tough for government to ramp up everything that is required by all sectors across the whole country in a very short run. But we can move faster if we create these hubs, and it's private sector led, not government led, because then if it's government led, it's nobody's project. But if it's private sector led, but facilitated through incentives by government to make those private sector players play that role, you would find that the common shared infrastructure and facility and the private sector mindset that is driving it will give it the opportunity to succeed faster and help us to grow those sectors in a way that we can not just meet the need in our country, but become net foreign exchange earner for our country. And this we can replicate across various segments of the economy. Those are things that it would be a delight to see us work in those areas as a way to rapidly move our economy forward. We all have the same dreams as our government, because I don't think there will be a better day than the day that we see the aggregate value that is within our people truly maximized in a way that we can create real value for our country. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing those insights. The importance of practical, relevant education and the critical need right now, and also the importance of industry champions and that example you made out. In fact, the Honorable Minister in his presentation today talked about champions. So there's unity in the spirit. And I'm sure that he'll task you with taking that forward like he often does. But I'm going to come back and give the final word of this panel to Andela and Sesheni, because we've seen the success of Andela and how quickly you can train and retrain. Now we want to take that to other sectors. We need it in agriculture, we need it in construction. Nursing has been used as an example, furniture making, Nollywood. How can we scale up that model? Because it's quite an expensive model. And what would it take from an enabled environment?
Thank you. I'll start with a story. So two years ago, there's a lady called Blessing Eboe who graduated from a Nigerian university, and she never really touched the computer. Probably played with one once in a while, but had never really spent time with it. Just a few months ago, there was an article released of the top 10 Nigerian football developers, and Blessington was on that list.
Wow.
And then when Mark Zuckerberg visited our office, we had a small meeting about 5 of us, and we asked Blessing to join so she could share her story with him. And the next day, at a big event at Landmark, he went and told her story. He remembered everything word for word. And he told the story of how she came and she failed the first time, and we sent her away, and she came back anyway. And now she's one of our top developers. I think what that speaks to is that if you can create value on the other side. So human beings are very smart, and they always find their way towards value. And I think young people who are energetic and want to do something with themselves will look around and they'll literally see where the value is. So what we did is we created the demand, which I think is the most important thing. If we're really serious about developing sectors, we have to create the right framework, the right policies, the right infrastructure, so that the demand is there for all these services, for all these products, and for all these companies, and people will build the companies. So what Blessing was doing was trying to figure out what she would do with her life. And she stumbled upon this idea called Andela, where you could become a world-class developer. You could become competitive versus any developer in the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Obviously, the wealth of experiences in both panels are just remarkable. And we could spend the entire day sharing hearing from them and gaining from their wisdom. But unfortunately, we're out of time, and we want to at least give 40 minutes for Q&A. And invite the second panel back here, and I think we have some extra chairs for you, and I'll give up my chair for somebody. So if we can have Omobola Johnson, please join. Please give this panel a round of applause. Omobola Johnson.
Thank you very much. Once again, we'd like to acknowledge that today's workshop, which is about positioning for economic recovery, as well as defining pathways through the collateral experience of the very, very distinctive testimonies that we have heard and the interventions that have been shared by our panelists. And you know, just as a quick recall, the Honorable Minister did summarize his entire presentation as a call to action, and that you are the champion of something, of one thing, and we must demonstrate the values we talk about with what we will now practice and express. And when he was speaking earlier, what touched was a message I heard from Bishop Oyedepo some years ago. I said that there's a dearth of teaching priests in the land, so that everyone who sees himself or herself in that place of capacity and opportunity as an apostle in the marketplace is actually a resource that teaches and raises up another generation of students, of leaders, of exponential personalities. Please note, like our distinguished Ibuka Awosika said, she hates the word potential. And I just took a quick look at that again and I said, I agree with you. Potential is about what is latent. Exponential is about translating what is latent to what rapidly evolves in results that truly create impact and legacy. And I trust that that which we've heard in this room has worked in us the exponential. And having said that, I have a number of questions that were brought to me, and by the exponential help of the Holy Spirit, I have them categorized in 5. Policy, youth issues, which way Nigeria, corruption, Mr. Minister, sir, judges and the judiciary. Where do we go? Judges and the judiciary? Let's start there. Please, sir, tell the Vice President, stop judges from sitting on all court cases more than 5 years. If the judiciary is working, our economy will work. The justice system, God forbid, I will not prophesy this, is challenged by this expression here in total shambles. How many of us know it's not in total shambles? In Jesus' name. But this is the expression of frustration. Why don't we have a totally reformed judiciary in order to boost conditions in foreign? I believe we understand that this person is in pain concerning the judiciary. He needs to. Nigerian courts are destroying our nation. If this government must succeed, let them visit Nigerian courts and make the judges give judgment and remove technicalities. Any comment on this? Thank you very much. Noted, sir. So you will tell the Vice President. Mr. President, Mr. Minister, I'll come to you with that at the final. In terms of policy, we have heard that until we solve Nigeria's foreign reserve problems, growth is not assured. Nigeria happens to be one of the top destinations for home remittance. What are we doing to capture and grow the market? What is the government doing in the area one of the challenges of doing business in Nigeria is the delay in registering businesses at the CAC. I have a foreign investor that I've been trying to register his business in the last 2 months. We are still at the availability stage. Is anything being done to make it easier to register businesses? I believe the question here that we probably will answer will simply be the one on foreign reserves, and in terms of home remittance, what is being done to capitalize, or what suggestions does anyone of our panelists have? Anybody want to take this? Yes, sir. I need some help with the other microphone. Thank you.
The foreign exchange and the role of remittance. The role of remittances in supplying foreign exchange to developing countries has not been well recognized, particularly by us here in Nigeria. Remittances, if we look at the external financial flows to developing countries, there are about 4. Remittance being one, there is aid or donor money, development support, whereby multilateral agencies, by bilateral, so